So I graduated in '94
Mhm.
and started practicing like everybody else does. You come out of school and you think you have all the answers and you know everything, and you quickly realize that you need to learn more.
Mhm.
And I was dissatisfied with what we had been taught about different techniques for treating joint tissues, joint capsules, adhesive capsulitis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, things like that. So I started expanding outside of what we'd been taught,
Mhm.
and I started looking to see what physios, chiros, naturopaths, physiatrists were sort of utilizing in their practice, and then quickly realized that a lot of what they were capable of doing was outside of my scope. We're
Okay.
legally not allowed to do high velocity latitude thrusts. We can't do
Mhm.
injectables like many manual therapists can.
Mhm.
Um, Eventually, that led me into looking at Andrew Taylor Steele and osteopathy,
Yeah.
and grabbing a lot of his original writings and original texts where he documented specific ways to treat the joints, which then he taught to his students, like William Sutherland and
Mhm.
Roland Becker and Ann Wales and a whole bunch of amazing American osteopaths. And Ligamentous Articular Strain techniques was first titled by William Sutherland in one of his books in
Okay.
an osteopathic book, and he credited Andrew Taylor Still as the originator creator of the technique. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I need to investigate that. I need to find out as much as I can. So
Mhm.
I grabbed every text I could possible from Andrew Taylor Still, from William Sutherland, Dallas Osteopathic Study Group with Roland Becker. They put out a book on LAS technique back in 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my journey. I just started focusing and practicing that with all of my patients, and I started to see amazing results. I was actually quite impressed with what the technique was capable of doing. So I
Hi, everybody. It's Paula Nutting, your musculoskeletal therapist, and it's another wonderful interview with an amazing practitioner who I've been lucky enough to have a small chat with before and get my glimpses on his new book that's about referral pain patterns, which I'm very excited to be able to help him launch, which is exciting. This is Robert Libbey. He is from Vancouver. Yeah.
Yep.
And been in the industry, same as me, 26
26.
years. Give us the Robert Libbey story.
Hi, everybody. My name is Robert Libbey, registered massage therapist, practicing 26 years in Canada. And I've been teaching the last decade, as Paula has, going internationally, trying to spread our word of, trying to reduce pain and suffering and those people that are in pain and discomfort, globally. So this is just an avenue that is really helping us to really help those people that we don't have contact with. So if
Yeah.
we can educate and promote and help to help another therapist somewhere else in the world help one of their patients, well then we're serving our ultimate purpose. So that's ultimately why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, we actually originally, we tried to meet when I was in Canada 2 years ago, and then we tried to meet when you were in Australia last year. And
2018.
oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So 2 years. So we were basically crossing each other. Yeah. I knew that there was a reason why, and it's only 5.5 hours to fly from Brisbane to Perth. So that would be nothing in Australian technology.
Yeah.
Same with you guys from Vancouver to Toronto. What's that? How many hours?
About 5.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a long way. It's a good 2 movies in there. When I was looking up your information, you're really quite specific because you focus more on ligaments. What's the last methodology? That's your baby, isn't it?
So I graduated in '94
Mm-hmm.
and started practicing like everybody else does. You come out of school and you think you have all the answers and you know everything, and you quickly realize that you need to learn more. And I was dissatisfied with what we had been taught about different techniques for treating joint tissues, joint capsules, adhesive capsulitis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, things like that. So I started expanding outside of what we'd been taught. And I started looking to see what physios, chiros, naturopaths, physiatrists were sort of utilizing in their practice. And then quickly realized that a lot of what they were capable of doing was outside of my scope. We're legally not allowed to do high velocity latitude thrusts. We can't do injectables like many manual therapists can. Eventually that led me into looking at Andrew Taylor Still and osteopathy.
Yeah.
And grabbing a lot of his original writings and original texts where he documented specific ways to treat the joints, which then he taught to his students, like William Sutherland and Roland Becker and Ann Wales and a whole bunch of amazing American osteopaths. Ligamentous Articular Strain Techniques was first titled by William Sutherland in one of his books, in an osteopathic book, and he credited Andrew Taylor Still as the originator, creator of the technique. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I need to investigate that. I need to find out as much as I can. So I grabbed every text I could possible from Andrew Taylor Still, from William Sutherland, Dallas Osteopathic Study Group with Roland Becker. They put out a book on LAS technique back in 2000, 2001. So that was sort of my journey. I just started focusing and practicing that with all of my patients, and I started to see amazing results. I was actually quite impressed with what the technique was capable of doing. And then I was treating a number of other therapists as patients. So other therapists that were having injuries and issues from how they were treating. And they were coming to me going, what is this? Like, no one does this. We've never had this before. What is this? You need to start teaching this. So then one thing led to another, and I started teaching it in 2010, I think it was. Yeah. Okay. Was when I started putting things to paper. So, and then it's just developed from then. So it's not, I've never claimed that it's my technique. It's not. It's Andrew Taylor Still's. I'm just one of the people along the path that has taken the techniques and has tried to mix in the current evidence-informed research of today to the technique. And there's a lot of principles and information from the past that aren't applicable to today because we now know more than what they did then. And in 40 years, it'll be somebody else doing the same. So I'm just a cog in a wheel.
And that's exactly right. We've all got like a technique the principles of a technique will be coined by somebody and researched on, adapted. So knowing not much about it, but knowing a little bit about Andrew Taylor Still, is that there's a lot of like positional release techniques, muscle joint MET, things like that. Is that similar to the work that you're doing with the LAS technique?
Yeah. So there's a lot of other people that claim to have started a number of these acronym techniques, but a lot of it came from Still and from Sutherland. Craniosacral, obviously, the most widely marketed craniosacral is Upledger. Yeah. But it really started with Sutherland taking LAS techniques, applying it to the cranium, which were balanced ligamentous techniques, and then that was the beginning of craniosacral. So,
and the beauty of that is that they're gentle techniques, yeah. Like it's not an aggressive form of treatment.
So LAS is sort of split. There was a divide that happened in American osteopathy a long time ago where there was direct and indirect techniques. LAS is considered an indirect technique. It's a very LAS and balanced ligamentous techniques. People think that they're the same, but they're not. With BLT, balanced ligamentous techniques, it's similar to cranial where it's very light. Maybe a couple of pounds of pressure, maybe ounces, depending on the person and the pathology that you're working with. With LAS, there's research and there's documentation where the clinicians were using up to 40 pounds of compression into a joint.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's somewhat different than cranial. So depending on the person that you're working on, if I've got my elite level athlete that I'm working on, I'm using a lot of compression into a joint in order to elicit a neurological response. But I also have a patient who has osteogenesis imperfecta, where if you use a pound of compression, you fracture her bones.
Yeah, wow.
So she needs ounces to work with her. So it's a very versatile technique.
Yeah, wow, it sounds amazing. And you've actually, I was looking at this book because part of this, our conversation is to allow therapists who maybe not working right now because of lockdown and have a great opportunity to get in and do some home study and some reflective practice, clinical research, things like that. And the book that you've talk to me about the book that you sent me last night. I had 24 hours to have a bit of a skim through. Amazing from what I got from it. Give us some information about why you put it together.
So I've actually got, for myself, I've got a digital version of it.
Oh, nice.
So there's that.
Screen grab that, everybody.
Exactly. Actually, you can just go to ligamentpain.com and you can download a sample chapter for free.
Okay, cool.
And you can pre-order it. So
ligament. What was the link again? Ligament.
Ligamentpain. Oh my God.
.com.
You've just. I have to think about it now. This is terrible. What is my website called? Ligamentpain.com.
Thank you. Ligamentpain.com. We'll cut that bit out. It's all right.
Ligament pain. No, that's fine. I don't care. It's real. So while I was investigating through Andrew Taylor Still and William Sutherland and ligamentous articular strain techniques, like many or all manual therapists, we have the trigger point charts that are posters that are up on our walls, the really ugly ones with the really terrible colors, and they fade really quickly.
That's what
you can buy them everywhere. And my patients were looking at those and saying, I do have something that hurts here, but it also here. And when you work here, it doesn't hurt, but when you touch here, this hurts. So it's referred, but the pattern on that chart's not me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
So I would say, okay, well, here's a pen. Go and chart your pain referral pattern. So I had a whole bunch of different colored felt pens. And over the next decade, patients would mark their referral pattern specific to them on the chart, or they would look at the chart and go, oh, somebody else is like me. This is mine also. Like, okay, so I would just commit to memory that when someone came in with an MCL sprain or pathology or injury of some sort, that the typical referral pattern was this. Or if somebody came in with a conoid trapezoid shoulder AC separation, then the typical referral pattern was that. Jump forward a decade, we moved our practice into a multidisciplinary clinic where we had physio and chiro and naturopath. And the naturopath who was in my room one day, we were talking about stuff, and he looked over at the chart. He's like, what are those? So I told him what they were. And he said, those look really similar to what we learned as prolotherapy students as being Hackett referral patterns. What the hell is a Hackett referral pattern? He said, oh, well, there's this physician down in the United States, George Hackett, in the 1930s and 40s, who was interested in joint tissue and looked at healing joint tissue a little bit faster than what nature could. So he took over 1,600 patients over a decade, 20,000 injections. He researched all of it, and he would inject irritants into ligaments and joint capsules in those patients, and then he would chart the referral patterns.
I'm thinking about the ethics about that, but that's all right.
It's America in the 1930s.
Yeah.
So, and as long as you've got informed consent, you're fine.
Yeah.
So I started researching George Hackett, and I grabbed the book. Where is it? Come here. So George Hackett's one of the original books was this one.
Yeah, wow.
So ligament relaxation. It's actually, there's a 5th edition right now. So other people, George is is passed away a long time ago, but there's other people that are continuing it. Ross Hauser in the States runs Caring Medical, and he's been so generous. He sent me like a textbook that he wrote. It's huge. It's amazing. So George Hackett investigated through prolotherapy injections on how to heal ligaments, and he found the referral patterns for the axial skeleton, so for cervical, thoracic, lumbar spine, SI joint. So I went through and deciphered all of his research, hired an illustrator, an anatomist, and cadaver dissector, and an illustrator to create the images. And then I further investigated into the peripheral joints. And there's a number of other researchers that have continued this research, and they've discovered the referral patterns for the whole body, for the peripheral joints. So, so once that was done, then I put them into the posters, which are the ligament pain referral pattern posters, which are also on ligamentpain.com. And then somebody in Australia, actually, when I was down there in 2018, they made a joke. They said, you know, if you had these in a book, I would pay you money for it. And I thought, I don't even know how that would, I don't even know what that would look like.
Yeah.
Because the posters are right here. But, you know, so it's taken 2 years to figure that out and to write the book.
Well, go Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. That's all I can say, because I'm flicking through it yesterday and this morning. It's there's a lot of good quality information, and you know, in this day and age, it's all about getting clinical evidence, research findings, backings to say what we do actually has validity. So this is really cool. Going through the book, I'm going to step back before we go forward. You talk about the 5E model of pain. So can you unpack that a little?
So I'm just bringing it up on my other screen. So the thing today is that we have a greater knowledge about pain science, and pain science is huge everywhere globally right now for manual therapists, physios, naturopaths, chiros. And it's really redefining the narrative or the stories that we tell our patients, or how we communicate, how we interact with our patients. We really recognize that like the one thing with this book that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to connect the ligament pain referral pattern book with a specific technique, because I don't want therapists to think that you can't buy the book or the posters because you haven't taken the technique, or that you think that you can't buy the book or the posters because you don't have the tools, the strategies, the education in order to effectively treat your patient who has these referral patterns, when in actual fact, all of us already do. LAS is just one technique that is specific to joint tissues, you know, neurological referral patterns, things like that. Muscle energy technique, positional release technique, fascial mobilization techniques, joint mobilizations, all of these techniques that we learn in our curriculum through manual therapy schools, they're all applicable. We've got naturopaths and physiatrists that utilize, like I said, prolotherapy, so stem cells, platelet-rich protein, in order to treat patients with these issues. So, so with pain, so with the techniques, we have a history where people would promote their technique saying it's the best thing since sliced bread, when really it was no better than any other technique that was out there. But what made their technique so awesome when they used it or when their students used it was the interactions that they had with their patient. So, so just like with the biopsychosocial model, we recognize that pain is all-encompassing. A lot of people think that they're being enslaved and punished because they're in pain. But what did I do? I'm a good person. I treat everybody nicely. Why am I in pain? So this sort of goes a little bit beyond the biopsychosocial model, and it just sort of explains it's just another step. It's not replacing the biopsychosocial model. It's sort of just building upon it is what it is. So, and in my travels, I'm quite shocked that when I teach and I say, okay, does anybody know about the biopsychosocial model, or the BPS model of treating pain or treating your patients? A lot of therapists don't. They're not aware of it. So I will make I'll make recommendations on, you know, where to go to get the information so they can be better educated and help their patients more. But we're just sort of recognizing that, you know, what we do, how we do it, how we say, the terminology that we use, the inflections that we have with our communications with our patients, actually has a huge effect on our patients, far more than what we do with our hands-on techniques. So so this kind of goes into that. So the 5E model is broken down into, and this is Stilwell and Harmon, I believe. It was their research.
Okay.
So they're basically just talking about how, you know, the whole environment that the patient is within, whatever that looks like. And it can be an environment of family or work or what they surround themselves with, how that influences their thoughts, their beliefs, their actions, their personalities. You know, like if you watch a lot of, whatever I call it, the constantly negative news, CNN, if you watch a lot of that kind of stuff, especially in a pandemic, everybody's glued to the TV. The majority of my patients, we're actually back open now, so we're back to treating. A lot of my patients are coming in and they've been so stressed, paying attention to everything globally. And unfortunately, you know, we're so close to the United States that, you know, everybody up here is paying attention to what's happening down there. Their pain levels and have just gone through the roof with the amount of stress and the influence that they have with the stuff that they've been watching. So it goes into that kind of stuff. So the 5E model is broken into embodied, embedded, enacted, emotive, and extended. And so an embodied is, embodied would be an individual's way of perceiving sensation in their own body. So that would be sort of like an introception, you know, how your body, well, actually, interoception would be how your body thinks about itself unconsciously. Perception would be your actually intaking of your proprioception, interoception, so on and so forth. So there's embodied, there's embedded, and it goes into, you know, a lot of detail. So
so people, if you were interested, have a bit of a look at the 5E model, because it will also help us, depending upon which areas that our patients have most stress involved in. We can probably start talking a language that's going to be more calming and facilitative in a positive way in those environments, so you can actually work within those to help with better outcomes in that biopsychosocial model. And you're right, it's like people are over the top with negative news right now. It's just, and it's going to be ongoing because we're just hitting second waves now. We're just seeing them all happening in Victoria. We've now got the second wave happening because people have been relaxed. I saw in the news yesterday that in the UK there's people just out on the beaches everywhere. So, you know, we'll be looking 14 days from there. So what was I also, there was something really interesting. Talk to me about the ligamento-muscular reflex, because again, people don't really, this is kind of new terminology for a lot of therapists out there.
So this is research that an American researcher, Moshe Solomono, had touched on about a decade or two ago. And this is also research that a professor of neurology, Thomas Graven Nielsen in the States, had wrote a 24-page paper on referred pain. You know, the nice thing about social media is that you can stalk people and you can bug them until they give you what you want in order to make you go away. And that's it's essentially what I did with Professor Graven Nielsen. It's like, hey, I found him on LinkedIn because I thought, you know, I've got these posters and I've got these referral patterns and I know about how other people figured those out, but I don't know how it works. I don't know how referred pain works. I know how radiating pain works. I know that, you know, if you get a tunnel compression on a nerve or a disc, you know, compression or something like that, you know, or an osteophyte, I know how that works, but referred, I don't know. So I got to look it up because someone's going to ask me. So I found him on LinkedIn and I just hounded him like, dude, you're the guy. I need to know. So he was incredibly kind and gracious, and we had amazing communication back and forth. And he sent me his 24-page paper, which was awesome. So, so ligamental muscular reflex, we know that from Robert Schleip's work and from the researchers from the fascial and from, oh my God, that we all, in our education, we have our anatomy books, and it isolates and it breaks down everything into its own section, its own system. So you have the muscular system, the skeletal system, ligamentous system, the neurological system, vascular system, and we all think that they're all separate. So we all think that they run. In reality,
well, we just had a little
of similar tissues with different densities and different functions. So these tissues, they run in series with one another. So you can't separate a ligament from a fascial tissue or from a muscle tissue. There's only 5 ligaments in the human body that meet the actual description of bone to bone. There's only 5. So this will be, how about we do this? This will be a quiz. Okay. And whoever wins the quiz gets a free book. How about that?
Yeah, well, okay. So we'll definitely put that into there. You've got to be able to name the 5 and then link it in, and then I'll send that through to you. And it's first in, best dressed. So
I'll give you a bit of a hint. There's 2 on one side of the body and 2 on the other side of the body, and they're basically, they are the exact same ligaments. It's just that there's 2 over here and there's 2 over there, kind of like you have 2 wrists and 2 elbows. Yeah. So there's 4 of those, and then there's 1 somewhere else. Okay. And I'll give you another hint just to make it not so hard, but it is the main ligamentous tissue that is involved with severe rheumatoid arthritis patients.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 4 and then 1 and then rheumatoid arthritis. So remember that, guys. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah. I'll be looking that up too, because I'm going to get that book.
so getting back to the ligamental muscular reflex and Jaap van der Wal's research, we know that there's a monosynaptic and a polysynaptic neurological pathway. The monosynaptic, it bypasses the spinal cord, and it just goes from ligament to muscle tissue through that efferent afferent pathway. Yeah. And for example, if you're, like when I was out dancing and I was wearing my heels, and I twisted on my heels a little bit, you go for that that ankle inversion sprain. The joint tissue sends a message to the peroneals and gastrocs, the hamstrings. It sends it all the way up to actually your suboccipitals, and it says, hey, our ankle's about to invert sprain. We'd like some help here. So all those tissues, they tighten up to try and stabilize that joint. And then obviously, you roll your ankle and you've sprained your ankle. So that's a monosynaptic pathway. Now, when we get our patients 6 months later, 6 years later, a decade later, where they're still suffering with dysfunction and discomfort in that ankle, that's a polysynaptic pathway. So now that's engaging in supraspinal thoughts, beliefs, things like that with their patients, and so on and so forth. And that's where you get that sort of protective armoring mechanism that we see with the hypertonicity in the peroneals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a very, very, very long-winded explanation of ligamental muscular reflex, but that's how it is.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And there was a couple of things that I was looking at, and I do want to get back, and we'll get more information for people to be able to use the book, because the thing that I like about anything that is lots of pictures, it helps us determine, all right, if I'm pressing on my patient in that spot and it's painful and it's not the ones that Travell and Simons traditionally show, then I can fast track it to going, I know I need to be working at this joint versus I need to be doing a dry needling in a a muscle belly. So I love that because it's taking us away from sticking needles into people, which I have a inherent dislike about. I much prefer to be doing things that are quite much less invasive. When I was listening to one of your little Facebook Live posts, you were talking about mentorship. What's that look like to you? Because I love that. That's my pet baby. I love the fact that we can try to assist and mentor those who would like to be assisted.
Yep. You know, there's different levels of, I guess, what we call mentorship or leadership. And you know, you really sort of have to question your personal why, your personal reason of why you're here. And you know, for most of us, you know, you can say to somebody, well, I'm here because I want to help people feel better. Okay, well, that's a nice bedtime story, but no, go beyond that. Why are you really here? Well, if I think about it, you know, maybe I was injured and I had somebody that helped me. Okay, well, that's nice also, but let's go a little bit further. Why are you here? So thinking about why you got into this and how you get into this and that kind of stuff, that leads to what your path sort of is. So, you know, I've got my reasons as to why, we've all got our reasons as to why we're in this profession, why we're helping people. But you can only do so much. And, you know, we have our patients that say, oh my God, if we could just clone you,
yeah,
you know, there's not enough hours in the day for me to refer all of my people to you. You need to clone yourself. And it gets kind of stressful because you want to help everybody, but there's, you know, you got to go home at the end of the day because you're tired. And I had a lot of therapists in my office where I knew I could, you know how you can sort of like, you can see the potential in somebody. They can't see it. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do, is that I wanted to challenge those around me in our office to exceed the potential that they thought that they had for themselves, because I knew that they could help more people. And I wanted to see them take the reins and mentor others in our clinic also, or others who get them into teaching and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of these one-off continuing education courses where you go and you take a course on the shoulder and then you're done, or you go and you take a course on the foot and then you're done. And I thought, well, you know, that's kind of nice, but I want to go beyond that. Again, you know, like there's the saying that success is determined by what you do after you do what's expected of you.
Wow.
So let's go beyond what's expected of me. Okay, so what's expected of me? What's expected of me is to teach a one-off weekend course. Okay, well, I don't want to do that. I want to take a group of people and I want them to dedicate themselves to a year. And in that year, we're going to meet once a month or once every 2 months. And we're going to go through, you know, a 1 or 2 day course on the shoulder. And we're just going to like rip it apart and go through everything. And then a month or 2 months later, we're going to come back and we'll move over and we'll do the thorax. But we're also going to touch on the shoulder, and we're going to keep in contact with one another. And if we need to email back and forth, or if there's patients that they're having a problem with, then bring them into the office. We'll tag team them together. So we work as a cohesive sort of unit.
That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at, I've just forgotten his name, but he wrote a book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And, you know, for example, the first level of leadership is that somebody wants to follow you because of what your status is. And then the next level of leadership is somebody wants to follow you, not just because of what your status is, but because of what they think they can gain from you. And then it breaks it down to the ultimate level of leadership is when you have led others, and now those others are leading the same in a way that you have in order to advance, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, and I think that's ultimately that's the goal, isn't it? I mean, for me personally, that's my goal. The work that I teach then has an ongoing support group, and then we try to meet, and it's as interactive as I possibly can get. So I totally agree that and I like that you're working with a like, I'm going to take you for 12 months if you want, and then you accelerate their capacity to, like, it might take 3 treatments, then we'll drop it down to 1 or 1.5 treatments to get so you're upskilling the speed of their ability to treat. Yeah. No, love it. Love it.
And then the mentorship thing, you know, it's not just that year. You know, I do a lot of things that other therapists don't like me for, in that I will allow somebody to, you know, come back a couple of years later. Okay, well, I was part of your mentorship group in 2016. I need to retake this because I'd forgotten it. Well, then come into the class.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just come on in, but I'm going to utilize you as a teacher's assistant.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You're not going to be a student. You're now going to be my TA.
Yeah.
I'm not going to charge you because you're working with me. But you know, you learn more by teaching. So.
Yeah, that's a great model. There's a college here, Q Academy, used to be Australian Institute of Massage, and any student that goes into there, they can repeat that module, that unit of study forever. So, you know, if you can't, if you've done your anatomy and physiology, or you've done sports injury management 1, and then you go, oh, God, then yeah, they're happy to have you in there. And it's like, that's a capacity for a good school to support their students. It's a really good model.
Yep.
So if someone was going to try to get the book, which I would suggest everybody get the book, because I think it's very, very cool in just assisting us from going to validate with our patients. Here, see this is what you've got. How's the best way to get it, Robert?
Right now is ligamentpain.com. There is, you can get the posters and the book there. It's got a pre-order right now, so it's on sale. You can also download a sample chapter that's got a little bit of the content, the pain mechanisms, the pain science stuff into that. And then I've thrown in a number of different referral patterns for people to look at. Obviously, the referral patterns in the sample chapter are watermarked and not as bright and clear as the original. But yeah, you can order it right now, ligamentpain.com, and you pre-order it. I'm actually at the point where tomorrow morning I'm going to pick up the test copy, so the test proof. I'll have it for the weekend to go through and make sure that, you know, all my T's are crossed and I's are dotted and stuff. And then printing happens next week. It's done within a week to 10 days, and then releasing it, really launching it July 15th.
Oh, good. Well, I'll have us all tidied up and edited and made sure that this goes out with plenty of warning. It's very exciting to have a new baby. It
is scary. Yes.
Yeah. So this is, before we wrap up and let you go to doing whatever you're going to do for the evening, because it's morning here and afternoon your way, I traditionally ask anybody who I get a chance to chat with, what would this Robert Libbey, if he could roll back 26 years, what would he tell the young Robert Libbey to give him a bit of a help through this industry?
You know, I think about that a lot, and I talk with, you know, the students in the mentorship group, or when I go to some of the massage therapy schools and talk to their graduating classes and stuff. You know, I think, I don't know, there's so much, right? It's like, you know, like, don't be in such a rush, really take your time, really calm down. I think even back then I recognized that if I could educate my patient, if I could talk to them in a respectful way, if I could empathize with them about what they were going through physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, if I could acknowledge them in the room and make them understand that they were being heard, that went further than anything that I was going to do with my hand. And there's been a number of times throughout my career where someone would come in and they're just having one of those days where they don't want to be touched, but they made the appointment and they know how hard it is to get in to see you, and they didn't want to cancel it, but they don't want to be touched. Okay, well, if I don't have permission, if I don't have informed consent, then we don't do any hands-on treatment. So what would you like to do? Well, I really like just talking with you. Okay, well, just as long as you understand that I'm not a counselor, not a psychiatrist, I can't give you any direction as to what to do. You know, I'm educated with motivational interviewing, so I can provide you your options and discussions that way. But I think just sort of building upon that, just taking the time, not being in a rush to get the patient in and on the table and out the door. A lot of therapists, they really, I think because of the structure of how at least the schooling system is in Canada, you know, you've got to get your patient on the table as soon as possible because they think that they're paying for as many techniques that the therapist can apply within an hour, and that's validation of a good massage treatment.
It's a stupid way to teach people how to become good practitioners.
Yeah. You know, so my typical 1 hour appointment is my patients come in, they sit down and we chat for 15 minutes. We just have a conversation. So, I think just, you know, if they're,
you're working on the nervous system right then and there. You're absolutely working on the vagal system. You're working on their healing responses right there and then. So,
well, we've all had patients where they said, you know, I woke up with a headache. I knew that I was coming to see you and my headache immediately started to feel better.
Yeah.
Well, I should have started charging you from that point on.
I put my prices up.
You know, yeah, that's not a technique. That's the therapeutic relationship that you have developed with your patient over that time.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a blog article about working with patients that have suffered from assault. So physical assault, sexual assault, mental, emotional assault, because a majority of those patients are in our practice, regardless of if we're aware of it or not. A lot of people won't have been forthcoming with that. So in that article, which is actually on my blog, which is lastsite.ca /blog, it deals with a lot of the ingredients that go into what an appropriate therapeutic relationship that is beneficial for both parties. And it deals with minimizing that power dominance that is ultimately potentially there in a therapeutic relationship. And we've seen that with a lot of therapists where they think that they're up here and the patient is down here. And you need to try and level that out as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
They're really good comments. And hopefully therapists who have been in the industry for a while can kind of might peel themselves back to actually feeling more into that whole emotional, biopsychosocial, you know, where you are in space, allowing your patient to be in a safe space with you in the room. But, you know, they're all amazing things. I was interviewing Whitney Lowe a month or so ago, and we were talking about the validity of what the placebo effect is and how we need to be able to find a way to research how placebo can be used in our industry, because that's exactly it. You know, I knew that I was coming to see you, and my headache was going straight away. There's so much research to come in, and hopefully you'll be part of that big picture too.
There was, I was just going to look it up. I've just forgotten his name. Whitney's awesome, by the way. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a amazing educator in the profession. Oh my God, there's a Canadian massage therapist from Ontario who wrote the book called The Placebo Effect.
Oh, really?
He did the research on it. I'll keep talking while I look for it.
And then we'll keep that link.
The placebo effect, it goes even as far as how you set up your clinical environment. And we have people that show up to our office. I can't seem to get out of my books. we have people that show up to our office an hour beforehand because we've created such an amazing environment that that people will they come just to relax.
Has that changed since COVID, like with the spacing, etc.?
It's only changed as far as, okay, here's a question. How do I get to my library from my books?
That I can't answer, my dear friend.
Apple products. I'll find it in a different way.
And I can always just link it into the comments section in this YouTube breakdown. So
yeah, the only thing that's changed with COVID is sort of the protocols about how many people were allowed to have in a waiting room at a time, and things like that. Okay, so where
we've had to remove, like, we don't have any literature, any magazines, anything, like they're really stripped down. So that actual emotional space of feeling comfortable can be with music in the room, the warmth or coolness in the room. But as for people to be able to go through your own literature or magazines or whatever, that's now not possible.
Yeah, even with even as something as simple as the music in your room. I play instrumental piano or instrumental guitar music that is all original, so it can't be emotionally tagged to an event that a patient has been through before I've seen them.
Yeah.
And I went through that a long time ago in my first year of practice, where I just had the radio going and some song came on and it was playing, at the time where my patient's husband was killed in a car accident. It's like, well, how do I control that, right?
No.
So
that's interesting. I traditionally play Spotify, and it will be my hit list, and most people I treat are around my same age group, and they'll go, oh my God, I haven't heard 10cc this, or Little River Band or whoever, but it's kind of like the environment is bright, cheery, it's not quiet and sedate. So horses for courses, I suppose, depending on how we're treating it. That's a great idea about having people that actually don't, like, you can't associate with something, because that brings up PTSD and all sorts of potentialities.
Absolutely. Yeah, the PTSD, the post-concussion, all of that. Wow, I can't find his book. He's not marketing it very well. Wow. Okay, I'll have to get it to you. Yeah,
that would be awesome. That'd be fantastic. So just to wrap up, that you've got those amazing blogs. That's in, is it Ligament Pain CA? Is that what you said? /blog?
Ligament Pain. Lastsite.ca. So LASTSITE.ca.
Okay.
So there's the blog site there, and that's where you can learn all about ligamentous articular strain techniques. I have online courses that I've developed also for those.
Perfect.
So there's online courses for the whole body, and it's not a I've been told that I should generate more income from these things, but I just do a one-time purchase and you've got lifetime access.
Yeah.
Those things are awesome, because I've had emails from therapists. Like, I got an email from a therapist. It was in India. Hey, the Sunday family dinner, 200 of us would show up. I'd heard my grandmother fell down the stairs. She'd hurt her shoulder. I pulled up your online course on the shoulder, on my iPad. I treated her in the back room, free supper with the whole family. It was awesome. That's awesome. Right?
That's why you're treating.
You
yeah, exactly.
That's why you do this.
100%. Well, thank you so much. Get on to that tell me again the site for the CA. It's LAST site.
So for any information on LAST, it's LAST lastsite.ca.
Yeah.
So LASTSITE.ca. So that's lastsite.ca. So that's the technique. And then for the book and the posters, it's ligamentpain.com.
Yeah, yeah. So get both, guys. Go and have a look at both. Have a look at these online courses, because this is the time that you can be able to use them for your CEC or CEU or CPE, whatever your online continued professional education. This is the time to learn that stuff. Robert, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your hectic day and getting a chance to talk with me. And it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. What you could do is you could hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And when you're ready to take the next step, why don't you click the link below and get into more information about my mentorship program. And I'll see you on the other side.